Hello, and I've got something wonderful for you to reflect on. Now, this is a difficult concept. In Buddhism, we talk about emptiness a lot. And for Zen practitioners, I'm convinced that they don't really know what it means. In fact, one of the high priests in Japan told the Dalai Lama recently that for centuries they've been saying everything's empty, but they didn't really know what it was until he came and explained it. So we're going to talk a little bit about it, but remind you, this is not something we can do in a 5 to 15 minute video. But what we can do is we can start looking at our reality the way it actually exists, which is different than the way it appears. So my first experience with Buddhism, I opened a book by the Dalai Lama, The Four Noble Truths, and one of the first sentences to jump out at me said, there is a disparity between the way things appear and the way they actually exist. Now, first of all, before we can understand that, we have to recognize that there's this division of all things in the universe in the Tibetan Buddhist system. And they are translated often as permanent and impermanent things. But if you look at the definition of the actual words, Takpa and Mitakpa in Tibetan, they don't match what permanent and impermanent mean in English. So we really need to stop saying permanent and impermanent, because the definition indicates a really important aspect of what emptiness is. Okay, so Takpa, the definition is chudang chudang ke chikma mayimpe shitunpa, and that literally means it is a thing. So whatever it is that is, that we're talking about, that is a takpa or that is permanent, is a thing, but also does not exist in such a way that it is only moment by moment. It's not a momentarily existent thing. And then the other definition, which mitakpa gets translated into impermanent, literally means changing or not unchanging, because its definition is kechikma. It means anything that lasts for only a millisecond. Now, that's hard to imagine when you think about, for example, like my glasses. And I lay them down here and look at them, and we say, oh, they're not changing. But we know that they're moving through time, because the glasses of 5 minutes ago are not there side by side with the glasses of right now. Okay, so they're moving and changing millisecond by millisecond. And in Buddhist philosophy, anything that you can see with your senses must be changing millisecond by millisecond, okay? And from a perceptual point of view, as I look at the glasses, the light that's bouncing off of the glasses hits my eyeball and sends that information back to my occipital lobe, creates a mental hologram, and I actually engage the object with the mental hologram. I'm never actually engaging the glasses directly with my mind, okay? For me, that's mind-blowing. It's the fact that I'm this thing stuck in this bony skull, and I have to use these sensors in order to collect data to get at the world out there. And the experience that I have inside my skull is only from the mental hologram I create from what my sensors collect. Okay, that's big. That's a big deal. Because that right there explains why some guy named Tom, for example, let's say I don't like a guy named Tom. Sorry, Tom's out there. But, and I don't have anyone named Tom I don't like. We're just saying. Tom comes around the corner and I see him, and suddenly I start to get agitated because I don't like Tom. But Tom's girlfriend is sitting across the room and she gets excited. So Tom's not radiating whatever it is that we're feeling about him. That's important to understand, that the things outside of us aren't happening at us. They're happening because of us. And so I'm actually polluting my experience of Tom with all of the different thoughts and feelings and so on and so forth I have about Tom, my storyline, my personal storyline. Tom doesn't, that's not on his side. He doesn't experience any of that himself. Now, what emptiness means, emptiness is it means what something is lacking, okay? So like my blue sweatshirt here is lacking the color red, okay? And I'm not getting fancy with, spectrum and so on and so forth. Let's just stick with hue. The color blue, my sweatshirt is blue. It's not red. It lacks red. It's empty of red. So what emptiness is in Buddhism is we're looking for anything that stands out from this causal process. Is there something that about those glasses that is somehow not a part of the perceptual experience that I'm having of them? or the cause and effect, who made them, and so on and so forth? Is there anything about the glasses on its side that is happening outside of the way we know it to truly exist? All right. Since the definition of a changing thing is k-chikma, meaning it's changing millisecond by millisecond, imagine yourself, like for me, April 22nd, 1970 is when I was born. Go back 9 months to when I was conceived, and my father's sperm and my mother's egg came together. And at that moment, from that moment until the day I die, represent each millisecond between them with a domino. Okay? That's a closer idea of who I actually am. This domino by domino. And people are always talking about be in the moment, be in the moment. You're already behind. You're never going to be exactly in the moment. Okay? You can try. You can do your best to be here now, but you still also have to plan. Have to plan to get up and go eat. You have to plan to go do things. But you can do them from a mindful place. Not another version of ignorance. Okay? But I am this string of dominoes. You're a string of dominoes. The glasses are a string of dominoes. The table that this phone is sitting on is a string of dominoes. My car is a string of dominoes. The birds flying by, and so on and so forth. The entire universe can be shaped in one domino at a time. And so the Tibetans say that time moves forward. These dominoes, or these moments, cascade into each other, and they create the next moment. Chilok suchungwa. That means that they're sprung from, this is causing that, this is causing that. So here's where it's fun. The Mark that is sitting here now, as a 51-year-old, his favorite domino is when he was 24. And that tends to be my, the way I self-identify. I see myself still as that 24-year-old. And what's your favorite domino? You know, when you had such and such a job, or what you were in this relationship, or you lived at that location, that just happens to be dominoes in that string. Now, the hard part about understanding emptiness is when you realize that, first of all, the thing that you're looking at is changing millisecond by millisecond. It's never the same thing twice. You never look at the same thing 2 times exactly the way they are in a row. The glasses have changed in some way. But I can't detect the subtle change of the glasses, but it happens. My emotional reactions to things and to people is only and always at a way that they don't actually exist. I'm actually getting angry at a fantasy, at a phantom, at a non-existent thing. Tom doesn't exist the way I see that. That's me. I'm reacting to Tom, or I think I'm reacting to Tom, but I'm actually reacting to my own mind. So we have to start looking at, and we'll go through a whole bunch of different videos about emptiness, but for this one, I want you to look at reality and see you have things that are changing and things that are not changing. The texts are going to say, the English writings are going to say permanent and impermanent. Just think of it as unchanging and changing. Why? Because if I want to be a doctor, I can place the right dominoes here, and it will cascade into the result I want there. Okay? Understanding how everything is working, if you finagle the dominoes earlier in the string, then later on down that chain, the result will be different as well. Okay? By saying that something is impermanent just makes you go, oh, well, it's not going to be around forever. But it loses the connection and our responsibility to, and here's the word, karma. Karma is action. It's married to, best friends with, emptiness. Because things are empty, meaning they don't exist as one monolithic, unchanging domino. Everything that you can experience with your senses is a chain of dominoes. Now, things that don't change, those are like a monolithic domino. Because things that don't change, we can't detect them with our senses. We can't experience them with our senses. My eyeball detects change in the light. The vibrations are changing. My ear is detecting sound waves. That's change. Okay? So we have a relationship with change. And that's one that we need to become more aware of, because it helps us look at reality the right way, and then our mind will stop overestimating the lasting power and threat that thing has, because it doesn't have lasting power and it doesn't have threat. And that's the way you should look at it. And I think this is something that you can reflect on, not just now, but for a very long time. And the more you reflect on it, the more you see that reality is not the way you thought it was, and that it's there, but it's not really there. You can start reducing your negative emotions and start improving your life quality. And that's something worth reflecting on.